Throughout history, Jesus Christ has been revered as one of the most influential figures in human existence. His teachings, as recorded in the Gospels, transformed the spiritual landscape of the ancient world and continue to shape the lives of billions today. Yet, despite the profound impact of his ministry, mysteries remain about the man behind the message. Chief among these is the question of his lost years, a significant period of his life that the Gospels leave entirely undocumented. At the same time, across the seas in the lands of ancient Britain, the Druids were the spiritual and intellectual leaders of Celtic society. They were philosophers, healers, and mediators between the divine and the natural world. Their practices and teachings, deeply rooted in the rhythms of nature, offered a profound spiritual framework for understanding life, death, and the cosmos. Could these two worlds, seemingly so distant, have intersected? Could Jesus, during his formative years, have encountered Druidic teachings? Could the man known as the Son of God have been influenced by the spiritual wisdom of the Druids? These are the questions that form the heart of Gordon Strachan's compelling book, Jesus the Master Builder, Druid Mysteries, and the Dawn of Christianity. In this documentary, we will dive into Strachan's provocative theories, exploring the possible connections between Jesus and the Druids. Through historical analysis, legends, and archaeological evidence, we aim to uncover the truth behind these fascinating claims. Along the way, we will examine the parallels between Druidic and Christian teachings, the role of ancient trade routes in facilitating cultural exchanges, and the symbolic significance of Jesus as a master builder. While some of these ideas remain speculative, they offer a fresh perspective on the life and teachings of Jesus and their enduring relevance in our modern spiritual landscape. This journey begins by unraveling the mystery of Jesus' missing years and the legends that suggest he may have traveled far beyond the borders of Judea. The Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John provide a detailed account of Jesus' ministry, crucifixion, and resurrection. However, when it comes to his early life, the narrative is sparse. After the story of his birth in Bethlehem and a brief mention of his visit to the temple at the age of 12, the Gospels fall silent about Jesus until he begins his ministry around the age of 30. This gap of nearly 2 decades, often referred to as the lost years, has fueled centuries of speculation. Where was Jesus during this time? What experiences shaped him into the teacher and healer who would challenge the religious and political powers of his day? Traditional interpretations suggest that Jesus remained in Nazareth, quietly working as a carpenter and preparing for his ministry. But other theories propose a more extraordinary journey. One of the most intriguing theories is that Jesus traveled beyond the borders of Judea, seeking wisdom in distant lands. Some scholars suggest that he might have journeyed to Egypt, India, or even Tibet, learning from the spiritual traditions of those regions. Others, including Gordon Strachan, propose that Jesus may have ventured to the British Isles, where he encountered the Druids. But how plausible is this idea? Could a young man from Judea have traveled such great distances in the ancient world? Surprisingly, the answer is yes. The ancient Mediterranean and European worlds were interconnected by extensive trade routes that facilitated the movement of goods, people, and ideas. Merchants, sailors, and adventurers regularly traveled from the Middle East to the British Isles, navigating the seas and overland paths that linked these regions. If Jesus did travel to Britain, he would not have done so alone. According to legend, he was accompanied by Joseph of Arimathea, a wealthy merchant and close relative who later played a significant role in the events of Jesus' crucifixion and burial. Some versions of the story even claim that Joseph introduced Jesus to the Druids, who recognized him as a great teacher. For centuries, the legends of Jesus traveling to Britain have captivated the imaginations of historians, theologians, and storytellers alike. At the heart of these tales is the enigmatic figure of Joseph of Arimathea, described in the Gospels as a wealthy disciple who provided the tomb for Jesus' burial. In British folklore, Joseph takes on an even more significant role, not only as a devout follower of Jesus, but as his protector and mentor during the so-called lost years. According to these legends, Joseph was a merchant who frequently traveled to the British Isles to trade tin, a precious resource in ancient times. The tin mines of Cornwall were known across the ancient world, and their connection to Mediterranean trade routes has been well documented. It is within this context that the possibility arises. Could Joseph have brought the young Jesus with him on one of these journeys? One of the most enduring legends places Jesus in Glastonbury, a site steeped in mysticism and regarded by some as the cradle of British Christianity. Stories claim that Joseph brought Jesus to Glastonbury, where he planted his staff, which miraculously blossomed into the Glastonbury thorn, a tree that still holds symbolic significance today. In these tales, Jesus is said to have walked the hills and meadows of the British countryside, gaining wisdom from the Druids and forming a deep connection to nature. Though these stories are largely considered folklore, they are not without historical intrigue. The presence of Mediterranean artifacts and influences in Britain during the Roman period suggests a degree of cultural exchange that could have facilitated such encounters. Moreover, the idea of Jesus traveling to Britain aligns with broader theories of his journeys to distant lands during the undocumented years of his life. These legends are more symbolic than historical, reflecting Britain's desire to claim a direct connection to Jesus and his teachings. However, the symbolism itself is worth examining. The stories emphasize themes of wisdom, nature, and spiritual transformation, qualities that resonate deeply with both Druidic and Christian traditions. To further explore these connections, we must turn our attention to the Druids themselves. Who were these enigmatic figures, and what can their beliefs and practices tell us about the potential intersections between their wisdom and the teachings of Jesus? The Druids were the spiritual leaders of Celtic society, revered for their knowledge of nature, philosophy, and the divine. They served as teachers, healers, and mediators, bridging the gap between the human and spiritual realms. Their teachings, though shrouded in mystery, have been preserved through oral traditions, archaeological findings, and the writings of ancient historians like Julius Caesar. Central to Druidic belief was the sacredness of nature. Groves of oak trees were considered holy sites, and rivers, stones, and other natural elements were believed to be imbued with divine energy. This reverence for nature is strikingly similar to the themes found in Jesus' teachings. In the Gospels, Jesus often used natural metaphors, seeds, vines, water, and light, to illustrate spiritual truths. His preference for teaching outdoors, in fields and on mountainsides, further underscores his connection to the natural world. Another key aspect of Druidic tradition was their emphasis on oral teachings. The Druids passed down their wisdom through storytelling, using vivid imagery and allegory to convey complex ideas. This approach mirrors Jesus' use of parables, which were designed to communicate profound spiritual lessons in a way that was accessible to ordinary people. Perhaps most intriguingly, the Druids were known for their healing practices, which combined herbal medicine with spiritual rituals. Jesus, too, was a healer, performing miracles that restored physical and spiritual well-being. While the methods differed, the underlying philosophy, a holistic approach to healing that addressed both body and soul, was remarkably similar. One of the most profound parallels between Druidic and Christian teachings lies in their views on life, death, and the afterlife. The Druids believed in the immortality of the soul and the cyclical nature of existence, where life and death were part of an eternal journey. Similarly, Jesus preached about eternal life and demonstrated the power of resurrection, offering a vision of hope and renewal. These shared themes raise compelling questions. Did Jesus encounter Druidic wisdom during his travels, or do these parallels reflect a universal spiritual truth that transcends cultural boundaries? While definitive answers remain elusive, the similarities provide a rich tapestry for exploration. To understand how Jesus could have encountered Druidic teachings, it is essential to consider the interconnectedness of the ancient world. Far from being isolated, the Mediterranean and Celtic regions were linked by extensive trade networks that facilitated the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures. The tin trade in particular played a crucial role in connecting Britain to the Mediterranean. Tin was a vital component in the production of bronze, making it a highly sought-after resource in the ancient world. Merchants from the eastern Mediterranean, including Judea, often traveled to the British Isles to obtain this precious metal. Along these trade routes, cultural exchanges were inevitable. Archaeological evidence supports this interaction. Artifacts such as Mediterranean pottery and coins have been found in Britain, while Celtic designs influenced Roman and even early Christian art. These findings demonstrate a flow of ideas and aesthetics that transcended geographical boundaries. Beyond material goods, the exchange of spiritual ideas was equally significant. As traders and travelers moved between regions, they brought with them stories, philosophies, and religious practices. It is within this context that the possibility arises. Could Jesus, traveling with Joseph of Arimathea, have encountered the Druids and their teachings? While the evidence remains circumstantial, the historical plausibility of such encounters cannot be dismissed. The ancient world was far more interconnected than we often realize, and the spiritual wisdom of one culture frequently found echoes in another. Gordon Strachan's Jesus the Master Builder proposes an intriguing idea, that Jesus was not just a carpenter by trade, but a master builder in a symbolic and spiritual sense. In this context, the term master builder refers to an individual who understands the divine principles of sacred geometry, a discipline rooted in the belief that certain shapes and proportions hold spiritual significance. Sacred geometry was central to many ancient cultures, including the Druids. Their sacred sites, such as Stonehenge and other megalithic structures, demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and the natural world. These sites were not merely places of worship. They were carefully designed to align with celestial events, embodying the interconnectedness of the heavens and the earth. Similarly, early Christian architecture, such as churches and cathedrals, often incorporated elements of sacred geometry. The proportions and layouts of these structures were designed to reflect divine order, creating spaces that inspired awe and spiritual reflection. Strachan suggests that Jesus, as a spiritual teacher, may have been influenced by these principles, drawing connections between physical structures and spiritual truths. In the Gospels, Jesus frequently uses construction metaphors to convey his teachings. He speaks of building one's house on a solid foundation and refers to himself as the cornerstone of faith. These metaphors resonate with the idea of Jesus as a master builder, someone who understands not only the physical act of construction but also the spiritual principles that underlie it. Could Jesus have gained knowledge of sacred geometry during his travels? The Druids, as keepers of ancient wisdom, would have been well versed in these principles. If Jesus encountered their teachings, it is possible that they influenced his understanding of the relationship between the material and spiritual worlds. While this idea remains speculative, it opens the door to a deeper exploration of the symbolic connections between Druidic traditions, early Christianity, and the universal principles of sacred geometry. Symbols are powerful tools for conveying spiritual truths, and both Druidic and Christian traditions are rich with symbolic imagery. One of the most striking examples of this shared symbolism is the Celtic cross, a fusion of the Christian cross with a circular design that represents eternity and the cosmos. The Celtic cross is often associated with early Irish Christianity, which emerged in a region deeply rooted in Druidic traditions. The circular motif, which predates Christianity, was a common symbol in Celtic art, representing the sun, the cycle of life, and the interconnectedness of all things. When combined with the Christian cross, it created a powerful symbol that bridged the gap between two spiritual traditions. Other symbols, such as the use of light, trees, and water, also hold significance in both traditions. The Druids revered trees as sacred beings, considering oak groves as holy sites. In Christianity, the tree becomes a symbol of life and redemption, most notably in the form of the cross. Similarly, water holds a dual significance, as a purifying force in Druidic rituals and as a symbol of spiritual renewal in Christian baptism. These shared symbols raise fascinating questions about the relationship between Druidic and Christian iconography. Were these similarities the result of cultural exchange, or do they reflect a universal spiritual language? While definitive answers remain elusive, The enduring power of these symbols speaks to their profound resonance across cultures and traditions. As compelling as these ideas may be, they are not without their challenges. The theory that Jesus was influenced by Druidic teachings faces skepticism from historians, theologians, and archaeologists. One of the primary criticisms is the lack of direct evidence linking Jesus to the British Isles or the Druids. The legends of Jesus traveling to Britain, while intriguing, remain rooted in folklore rather than historical documentation. Furthermore, there are significant cultural and theological differences between Druidic and Christian traditions. Druidism was a polytheistic belief system deeply connected to nature, while Christianity is a monotheistic faith centered on the worship of one God. While parallels exist, these differences raise questions about the extent to which one tradition could have influenced the other. Critics also caution against the tendency to romanticize the Druids, whose practices and beliefs are often idealized in modern interpretations. The historical record of Druidic practices is limited, and much of what we know comes from Roman sources, which may have been biased or incomplete. Despite these challenges, proponents of the theory argue that the similarities between Druidic and Christian traditions are too significant to ignore. While the evidence may be circumstantial, it invites further exploration and a re-examination of the historical and spiritual connections between these two traditions. If the theories explored in this documentary hold any truth, they could have profound implications for how we understand Jesus and his teachings. The possibility that Jesus was influenced by Druidic wisdom invites us to view him not only as a figure rooted in the traditions of Judea, but also as a teacher who transcended cultural and geographical boundaries. This perspective opens the door to a more inclusive understanding of spirituality, one that acknowledges the interconnectedness of all traditions. By exploring the common themes and symbols in Druidic and Christian teachings, we can gain new insights into the universal principles that underlie all spiritual paths. Moreover, these theories encourage interfaith dialogue and cultural integration. They remind us that no tradition exists in isolation, and that the exchange of ideas has always been a vital part of human history. In a world often divided by religious and cultural differences, the idea of Jesus as a bridge between traditions offers a powerful message of unity and understanding. As we conclude this exploration of Gordon Strachan's theories, we find ourselves at the intersection of history, legend, and spirituality. While definitive answers remain elusive, the parallels between Druidic and Christian traditions offer a compelling framework for understanding the life and teachings of Jesus. Whether Jesus traveled to Britain, encountered the Druids, or was influenced by their wisdom, the connections between these traditions invite us to see history as a tapestry of interconnected ideas. By uncovering these threads, we gain a deeper appreciation for the shared values and universal truths that unite us. In the end, the question is not whether Jesus was a Druid, but whether understanding these connections can bring us closer to the essence of his teachings, and perhaps to a greater understanding of ourselves.
If you enjoy our content, we'd love your support. By joining one of our channel memberships, you help us continue creating videos like this one while gaining access to some amazing perks. As a member, you'll unlock exclusive content available only to supporters, earn loyalty badges to show off in comments and live chats, and enjoy priority responses to your comments, shoutouts, and more. The best part? Memberships start at just $2.99 a month, less than a cup of coffee. Even small contributions make a big difference for the PJ Bible TV team in covering production costs and delivering the content you love. And if you're not ready to become a channel member today but still want to support us, there are other ways to help. Engaging with our videos is a tremendous way to show your support. By taking just a few moments to like the video, share it with friends, family, or on social media, and leave a comment, you're telling the YouTube algorithm to share our content with more people. Your support, no matter how you choose to show it, means the world to us. Thank you for being part of the PJ Bible TV community.